Hey, this is Alan Fenstermaker here. I'm here with Dr. Tom Prichard. How are you doing today, Dr. Tom?
Doing great, guys. How are you?
I'm doing really good, man. Now, I got some questions for you. Now, first things we'll start off. I saw here that you're trained by the Iron Sheik. What was that like being trained by the Iron Sheik?
Well, it was only a couple months, and it was back in the day when everybody kayfabed everybody else, and it was still a tough business to get into. Not that it's not a tough business to get into today, but it was a lot tougher then because back then the guys still protected it and approached it as this was real, and they wanted to protect it. Want to see if you were going to stick with it. So that was kind of interesting. The sheik stretched me twice. I remember pretty vividly, and after that, he left the territory and went and worked with a guy named Nick Kozak and Joe Mercer. So training with the Iron Sheik was pretty good. It was cool, but it was just 1 day a week at the Coliseum for a couple months after a football player wanted to try this and figured he could do it because he knew how to do stunts and he could act. There's a lot more to it than that.
Okay. Now, Rick, do you have any questions you want to add at all, or?
So you did grow up in Memphis with the USWA, and you didn't see the Texas part, right?
Right, yes. I grew up in Philadelphia, but I was catching a lot of the USWA stuff as mid-90s.
Oh, on ESPN and stuff, right? Or you just caught it?
What channel it was.
Hell, I don't know, man. But what? No, it was USWA in Texas during that time, during the '90s. I guess it was the late '90s, right? No, late '80s. I apologize. Yeah, late '80s. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was actually the business at that time was still again kayfabe for the most part, at least with USWA. And we would travel from a spot show from on Thursday night to Dallas, and get there in the morning of the Friday night show. Do the show and then get back on the bus. It was a nice tour bus. We go back on the bus and do Saturday morning. Pardon me, Saturday morning TV in Memphis, and it was a very very cool atmosphere and crew and vibe at the same time. You had Jeff Jarrett, you had Steve Austin, Lawler I think was there periodically when Embry was booking. Eric Embry was booking at that time, and it was a great experience for me because there were times they would actually run spot shows after the Dallas TV and we would stay over. So it was and it was in the Sportatorium where I actually had one of my earliest matches against Skandar Akbar. So that was a very very cool time for the wrestling business and the territories. I dug it. Yeah, I dug it. It was great.
Okay. Now, what was it like working with Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony?
Some of those guys you just have chemistry with, and I had it with Tony. I had it with Jeff Jarrett, Brad Armstrong. Trying to think of the guys right off the top of my head, but Tony was a great worker, and one of those guys, one of those people you really enjoyed being in there with because it was like a night off, and you were having fun. And back then, the wrestling business, it should be fun today too, but back then it was exceptionally fun to me, and I think most of the guys in that era because we were having a great time on the road. We were having some really good matches. The business was definitely changing, but every time Tony and I went in there, we really didn't have to say anything. We pretty much read it and did things on the fly. We never, in fact, back in those days, in the '80s, or even go back to the '70s, you pretty much would go into the ring knowing what you're going to do, and that's it, knowing for the finish, and that's it. You might have one or two spots that you say, hey, if this comes up, let's try this. But for the most part, back then we didn't get a chance to go to the ring and rehearse and things like that. So we just talked about what we would do in the back, and sometimes we didn't even get a chance to do that. Sometimes the dressing rooms were across the building from each other, so you didn't see your opponent until you stepped into the ring. So working with Tony, uh, my gosh, was tremendous because you wanted guys who knew how to get heat, go out there and.
Dr. Tom, what was it like being in Smoky Mountain wrestling, and do you have any road stories that you'd like to share about from that?
Smoky Mountain was a great territory again because it was comprised of a lot of outlaw guys who were, and when I say outlaw guys, not guys who were outlaws as far as just independent wrestling, but the guys who kind of were rebels or spoke their mind like Jim Cornette. So that was very cool, and we had guys who loved the business and looking for a place to go when the business was changing, and we couldn't stop it. weren't going to compete with the WWE or anything like that, so we knew that. Um, Road stories were, well, gosh, I just saw Tracy Smothers last night, and Tracy and I had. It's kind of crazy, man, because you don't go you don't go decades in this business unless you're Bobby Eaton and not have issues with somebody, or at least there's going to be a few screw yous here and go to hell and stuff like that. Just because you're around each other so much, and it's the nature of the business. It's the entertainment business, so. Tracy and I had an altercation on the side of the road one time. We called it grapple and gravel, just because I had said something smart ass and he didn't take to it too kindly and wanted to kill me. And we were supposed to work a program, like starting the next day at TV. And I called Jim as soon as I got back and said, "No, I'm not going to work with him. I just don't want to. I'm not going to take a chance." So, I mean, the road stories there were pretty much stuff I really can't say on air. But we had we had some great times, man. It was the Rock and Roll Express against Heavenly Bodies, and Jim Cornette being a big part of that, along with Stan Lane and Jimmy Del Rey. So it was a lot of fun. Everywhere I went was a lot of fun because I made it fun.
Okay. Now, Mark, do you have any other questions?
Sure. So I know that there were some interesting guys down in Smoky Mountain, and we were coming up down at the ECW arena. We got to see people like Chris Candido and Brian Lee and those guys come through. I was wondering, what was it like working with those guys?
Candido, I loved, and I love Brian Lee too. Brian stayed with me when he came to Knoxville. Came through Knoxville, and there were certain people who understood me and I understood them, and that makes for a good thing if you're going to stay with somebody, and not everybody could be roommates, so to speak. Even if you're partners, you might have different personalities on the outside of the ring. So Brian had a lot of potential, and I really liked him a lot. Candido was young, ambitious, and very passionate about this, which was always good. And I liked it, man. I mean, he was a great kid. And I got to work with him later on, too, in WWE. Had a fun time watching him develop, but he was always great from a young age.
Okay. Now, what was it like teaming with Stan Lane and the team, the Heavenly Bodies?
Once again, it was one of those things that it was fun. And Stan was a couple years older than me, but he already had his major run in WCW, and now he's on this run in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which it wasn't WCW, it wasn't making WCW money. So while it was fun for me, for Stan, it was, I can't speak for Stan, but I think it was it wasn't what he thought it was going to be and he was traveling from Charlotte or wherever it was in the Carolinas at that time. Quite a ways to come work with us. So but we never had a crossword, and I thought everything was fine. The reason he left, I believe, was business, and I can't fault him for that. So, but he was great to get along with, great to talk to, great to be around, funny, and I think that's a huge thing missing in the dressing rooms today, or in wrestling. People being entertaining and understanding that this is a entertainment business, and even backstage, people have to like you, people have to want to be around you, and I haven't always had that. People haven't always wanted to be around me, but they always wanted to be around Stan. So it's an art form, even backstage, more so than it is in the ring. And Stan was great at it. He was always kept me entertained.
Okay, now Rick, do you have anything else you'd like to add at all, or?
Sure. So I know that brother Bruce is now, doing the creative stuff on SmackDown. So I always wondered this because I remember, seeing Brother Love as a kid, and then I remember seeing the Heavenly Bodies, and I always wondered like what your guys' relationship was with Vince McMahon. It seems like it's been a long-term working relationship.
Well,
I'm just curious about that.
yeah, Bruce has always had a confidence in what he does, and rightly so, because he's great at what he does. I knew I wanted and I was going to be a wrestler, but that's as far as it got. I didn't want to imbibe or cross over to the other side where you have to play the game. But life is about playing the game, and Bruce knows how to play the game. Bruce is excellent at what he does, and he also knows how to get along with people, and he knows how to make friends. I, on the other hand, have always been a loner, and I looked at people very cautiously, and I was hard to get to know, and I didn't have a whole lot of friends. Brad Armstrong was my closest friend because he and I were pretty much on that same battlefield, if you will. We both struggled to maintain our way of thinking and not having to give in to the usual gossip and crap that goes on. It's part of life. It's part of the business. It's part of any business. It's part of anything you do. So when it came to Vince, Bruce already had that relationship, and I'm coming to WWE in I think it was 1993, and I'm 33 years old. And at 33 years old, starting in WWE, even though it was we were on the pre-show at WrestleMania 10 and WrestleMania 12. And that's great. That was, okay, that's what you think of it. Instead of stepping up and saying something about it, I just took it because I didn't want to make waves. But you have to make waves. And I learned that later on when I started training people for WWE. And Vince asked me if I would be interested in doing that, which I said yes. But I never had the relationship that Bruce does. I have a relationship, yes, with all the McMahons. Shane is probably the one I'm closest to, and who I still will contact maybe twice during the year, maybe more, in a text now and then. But Bruce was always a people person, knew how to get along, knew how to walk and mix with the crowd. I'm still learning that. At this stage in my life, I still am who I am, and I'm a loner, and I've learned, I think, a lot better how to integrate, but Bruce never lost that talent to integrate, and that's why he's in the position he's in today, because he knows how to communicate. No matter what people think, he knows how to communicate and get his point across, and to get people to receive his message, and that's key.
Okay. Now, I saw that you were close. I heard that you were close with Shane McMahon. What was that like when you were when you trained him?
Shane is great. Shane is I hate to pin this title on him, but it's actually one of the boys. He just happens to be a McMahon, but all the McMahons, seriously, from Linda, Vince, Stephanie, and Shane, all of them are passionate about the business and about their business, and rightly so, because they wanted to be the best in the world, and it doesn't just happen. People have to work at it, and they were great at choosing great people to help get their message out, and training. The only one that I have not been in the ring with is Linda, but training all of them, or even just stepping in the ring, training Vince for his first match with Austin was awesome, but it was also intimidating at the same time. But training Shane for his first match was great because he knows how to make people feel at home. He knows how to make people feel at ease. That's part of the talent. That's part of the atmosphere and energy you want. People who know why they're there and want to make you feel and make them feel too welcome and receiving to what you're trying to help teach them. Okay. So yeah, it was great. I hate to. I don't have any other adjectives to describe it except great, because he's one of the boys and he loves the business. He does not mind taking a bump. He does not mind getting hit. He does not mind putting in the hard work. And he's put in the hard work every time he stepped in the ring. Okay.
Now, how would you describe your experience in working with the Rock and Roll Express?
Awesome. Like a night off, because Ricky and Robert were so pro, such pros. Morton by himself, and he had that spark, he had that it factor then.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add at all, Rick?
Yeah, so I see that you trained a lot of people, and I'm curious to know how, like, the training federations kind of go, because I've never really been around that kind of side of the business, so, like how does it work when it's like you have like a developmental territory thing going on?
Repetition. You have to do this over and over again to get good or to get great at it. The only way you're going to learn how to do this is to do it, and it's similar to it's just like a stand-up comic. You can tell jokes all day long in front of a mirror and by yourself. You don't know if they work though until you go in front of a crowd. So that's what we do with our training system. You're going to get in the ring. You're going to learn the basics and fundamentals that never go out of style. It's still blocking and tackling. It's still hitting the ball over the fence. The method and how you get your message across, again, I think a great coach knows how to communicate. I am not always the best communicator in the world, but I do what I think I have to do at the time. For instance, if I feel somebody needs a pat on the back, I'll go that direction. But somebody sometimes needs a kick in the ass. And there's not much room between a pat on the back and a kick in the ass. So you have to decide. And sometimes I decide right, sometimes I decide wrong. But either way, it's a coaching technique that you have to find that works for you, where the people who you're coaching receive your message and deliver, and they understand that you're on their side and you want to help. And that's a huge part of teaching people. I don't know if you can teach confidence, but I will preach with a P, confidence all day long. If you don't have confidence, you can't deliver confidently and you can't put the move on like you know what you're doing. So we go over it and over it and over it. And then we add the intricacies of spots and telling a story. You also have to know more than anything else today how to communicate and talk. You have to know how to talk and tell a story. What we do in the ring is really just a fraction of what this business is. it's communication, it's relationships, it's getting you where you want to be, but you have to have the roadmap, you have to have the directions, and that's what the training. I'm sorry, guys, my wife just came home with the dog's barking.
That's cool.
Anyway, so you have to have the direction, and you have to have the tools to do it, not only to teach it, but to follow it too. So that's what the training's about.
Okay. Now, what was it like working with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in the WWE, which was then the WWF?
Well, again, you have two very passionate guys who had a rivalry, not only in the ring but backstage, and it was real and it was passionate, and that's what made that so special. And I think, especially now, as Shawn and Bret look at it over the years, I think they can look back fondly, because their thinking, their attitude that they brought to the ring and backstage, it translated into being real. You have to think shoot, but work. But these guys were thinking shoot the whole time. And when they went in the ring, they knew what was going to make a great match. They had that feel for it. And because of such passion, Bret was going to outdo Shawn as a babyface, and Shawn was going to make sure he made Bret look like $1 million. Bret was going to outdo Shawn by selling for him when he felt it was time and how he felt he should sell. And Shawn knew how to do that, and he also knew as a heel, as a guy that really felt this and believed he deserved to have the championship and deserved to be the top guy. That was real back then, and I think it translated to the fans, and people felt that tension too. And it turned into some of the greatest matches in the 90s. So it was cool to see that and feel that, because it was that electricity in the air backstage and when they went to the ring too.
Okay.
I mean, two opposite characters, but it was a very it was a fun. I go back to the word fun. It was a fun feeling, man. It really was.
Okay. Now, what was it like when you teamed up with Jeff Jarrett to face Chyna and Deborah on Raw's War?
The strange thing is sometimes you get to the point where stepping in the ring is not the right thing to do, because you don't want to embarrass yourself, you don't want to embarrass the people you're working with, and you also don't want to get hurt, man. I was feeling it by that time, and I was content to be training people and be backstage. It was still exciting, it was still cool, but I don't know that it was it was a cool thing to do, but there was nothing that said, hey man, I want to get back in the ring on this. I was content by that time. I had known my best days were behind me. My neck had been really bothering me. So going into a match like that, all I was trying to do was to tell the story, get the angle or story over. And I think that at that time we were doing the scab referees, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it was something that was there, and they needed a fill. They needed someone to do it, and I was more than happy to do it. But I was also more than happy if it wasn't happening. I was happy to be backstage. I was happy to be in the training part of it.
Okay. And Rick, do you have anything else you'd like to add at all, or?
Well, I was wondering what your thoughts were about AEW and about what's going on with professional wrestling today.
Well, before they actually had their first shot, I wasn't sure they were going to last. And I don't know. You can't tell the future. But then they got Jericho. This was, like I said, they wouldn't make it before they got Jericho. But your key to success is your talent. First thing first with anything, you have to have talent. And where are you going to find the talent? Come to find out, some of the guys in WWE aren't happy or weren't happy or whatever it is. Okay, there's talent, but they've been seen for years. So WWE has this way, I don't know how to describe it, don't know how to, again, communicate it to you, but they have this way, and they have this mantra or vibe or whatever you want to call it, that they will make stars or a star no matter how long it takes. It's kind of like the old saying, sure, the rain dance works because they don't stop dancing until it starts raining. It's the same thing with WWE. They ain't going to stop till they find that formula. They're going to keep either adding the ingredient or taking it away. Same thing with AEW. I'm not familiar with Tony Khan. I know, I only know what I've read and heard. There's other people who know more about him and have told me about it. But Cody, I think, very capable, very ambitious, very confident. I believe that's what it takes. But the key element there is talent. You have to have the right guys in the right place. Chris Jericho, I think, I hate to use the word genius, but I think he's a damn genius, man. He's transformed his look, changed his gimmick, not gimmick. He's always been Chris Jericho, but changed his image, just changed his persona, changed his look, where it's the same guy, but it's not the same guy. He gives you something fresh and new. So, first of all, what I think about him may not be my cup of tea, but they're not selling to me. I'm not your target audience. I'm a fan of talent. I am a fan of entertainment. I'm a fan of characters. But I probably tomato. You like this, I like that, and that's key. I'm happy for him, and I hope there's another place for guys to work because we have Lynn Jacobs and I have a wrestling school, and we would love nothing better than for our guys to be somewhere successful and living their dream. So I really do hope it succeeds, and I hope that they look around and find the greatest young talent and outbid whoever they have to outbid or do whatever they have to do to make the company work.
Okay. Now, what was it like in your return to WWE in 2007 to 2012 as opposed to like how it was within your prior run that you had?
Well, it was becoming, it had not been a publicly traded company for that much before I came back in 2007, I guess. I got released first time, and came back. It was becoming more of a corporate business, and rightfully so. It should be. Things are better for the guys. Money's better for the guys. But in my opinion, and wrestling is nothing more than an opinion, you still need a little of that. Now, maybe you don't these days, but it would be nice if you still had a little bit of grease, dirt under the fingernails type business. It's a hard business, and if you learn in a sterile environment where everything is this way, that's okay. But if you learn in a gritty environment where you take a bump, where you feel something different, and you're allowed to pursue something that might work, and work on it, see how it goes. Feel it, and you'll know when it's going somewhere, or you need to modify it, you need to change it. So that was different in the sense it was becoming more of a corporate feel. Before, it was kind of like we were in Tampa, they were in Stanford. We would write the reports, send them in, but it kind of reminded me of like they were running the war room up there with really no idea what we were doing in Tampa. And we would suggest things and suggest talent to go to TV. And we would send them tapes, we would send them matches, and we would send them our reports. And they would sometimes do it, sometimes not. The office would come down sometimes and look around for a week and say, yeah, okay, well, I don't like this, I don't like this. Now, Vince and Triple H both have the big monitor in their office, and it's on 24/7. They can look at that, and they can critique a match from Stanford without anybody knowing. And I always tell people, and I've told people this before, you should always work like you're working for the company you're trying to get a job with. Like Vince is watching, like Hunter's watching, like whoever's going to watch. Last night in Knoxville, William Regal showed up with Dave Taylor. William Regal is the head talent developmental scout. He's the guy. And here you have these independent guys with an opportunity. He may watch the match, he may not, but he came in to honor Bobby. He came in to see Bobby. But he and Dave actually watched some of the matches. And, you know, that's what you have to keep in mind is you never know who's going to see you. You don't know who's going to take that match, even on their phone. I don't care if there's 15 people, 5 people, or 1,500 or 5,000 people. You should work like a professional and go out there and work like you're working for where you want to go, the company you want to wrestle for. So when I came back, I still had my style, my way of teaching, and things were becoming the way they were. And then finally, Triple H took over and decided he wanted to go a different direction. His prerogative, his company, well, not his company yet, but soon to be his company, however soon may be, 20, 30, 100 years, eventually it will be his say. So they have every right and every reason to change their game plan, change the direction. And that's what was different. At least the office was taking a more active approach and active hands-on. They didn't care for a few things, and that's okay. I finally gave it to them, and they didn't want that, so they got this. And that's what was different.
All right. Now, Rick, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I got a question for you because I know that you were, working with Candido the way that you were. This is a question that might not be totally related to you, but why do you think that, like, the franchise Shane Douglas had a lackluster run in the WWE around that time period? Because I mean, he was coming off of a pretty hot thing in ECW. And second part of the question is how do you feel about, like, the legacy of ECW?
How do I feel about what? ECW? Was that the second part? How did I feel about ECW?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think Shane might have had a lackluster run when he came in because he might have come from ECW and because some of the guys might have looked at him like, you're coming from the bingo hall, or he might have just rubbed some people the wrong way. I've known Shane since he broke in too, and I always liked Shane, and I always got along with Shane, and I still do. I think he's a smart guy, and I think he's entertaining and funny. But some guys didn't because he's coming in to move into a spot that some of the guys didn't want him in. They wanted to have their buddy in the spot, and this guy's moving in to take that spot. And Shane can also rub some people wrong if you don't know how to take him. If you first met him and take him at face value, he can be like a smart ass, but not meaning anything at all by it except just we're all smart asses. But that could have been it. You're wanting to move into that spot. Well, by God, you better be worthy of it. And you better play our game. And maybe he wasn't ready to play a game either. And I understand that attitude. And I loved ECW. And ECW is, again, we talk about dirt under the fingernails that get gritty and grimy and had real and passion. If you feel it, it's real. And those guys at ECW, I'll give it to Paul Heyman. He knew how to motivate. He knew how to get people to do what he needed to be done, and it resonated. I mean, that arena in Philly is, before they renovated it, it was a great wrestling building. Now it's a great wrestling building, even more so. But the people who would go to that arena to watch ECW were hardcore, tribal almost wrestling fans. And what I mean by tribal is like you could feel the tension when you walked out, man. If they loved you, they loved you. If they hated you, they let you know it. And they let you know when you messed up. They let you know when they thought it was the shits. So that part of the grit and the low down um, facts that people wanted to come and see some guys who would bust their butts and have passion and love for the business. It was great. It was a great opportunity for a lot of guys to go out and just express themselves. And Shane did. And I think that might have rubbed some of the people who were in power at the time just wrong. And whether that was right, wrong, or indifferent for how he was treated, that's the way the business is. And Shane knew it. And I think he tried to either fight it or I don't know if he I don't know if he ever went and just talked to the crew and said, "Hey guys, I get it, but what do I have to do to change it? What do you want me to do?" I don't think he wanted to do that. I think he was ready. I think he was ready to stand his ground, which is good for him. To stay true to himself, again, good for him. But the facts being the facts, I think that was what was needed to be done at that time if you wanted to succeed. I could be wrong, just my opinion.
Okay. Now, I know you trained. You said you trained Shane McMahon, but I also saw that you trained guys like Kurt Angle, Val Venus, The Rock, Giant Silva, the Bella Twins, Steve Bradley, Dolph Ziggler, Brackus, and Cheeseburger. What was it like having a hand in training those guys and witnessing their success?
Very cool, and probably the greatest feeling so far. Even not wrestling, after wrestling, because I know what it was like, and trying to succeed. We didn't have wrestling schools on every corner like there are now, but it's a great feeling when somebody accomplishes their dream and goes on to be a success. Um, I don't want to take credit for those guys, full credit. I'm happy to be saying I had hands on and help. But those guys had to actually go out and do it. They had to actually perform it. If I had any part of orchestrating or just said one thing to them that stuck with them, then great. That's great. But they actually have to apply it, and they actually have to go in the trenches, and they actually have to pull it off. So I have to give all the credit to those guys and their mental strength and capacity, because it ain't easy. Not just everybody can go out and do it. I'm not talking about the wrestling, because I really mean it when I say the wrestling is just a fraction, that much, about what we do. You know, it really is outside the ring and while you're traveling and during the events and how you act backstage and how you react backstage and things like that. So it's very gratifying that any of those guys even mention my name in passing, but they're the ones who actually have to go do it. So, yeah, it's great.
Okay. Now, Rick, do you have anything else you'd like to add at all, or?
I don't know. I think that's pretty much all I got right now. I mean, I don't want to overload them, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's been a lot of questions, you know?
All right. Now, one last question. Do you have any advice that you would like to give for anybody that's wanting to become a pro wrestler and entering the business?
Find a great school and do your research. And I think we have a great school that we started last January right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Find a great school, research them. You can research us at jpwrestlingacademy.com or anywhere close to you. I like the Monster Factory. I think Danny Cage does a great job up in New Jersey. Lance Storm just shut his school down. I think Rudy Gonzalez does a great job in Tennessee, Texas, San Antonio, Texas. And why I say this is because go to a wrestling school who's going to show you and teach you and talk about the basics and fundamentals. Because if you looking to go to a company, I don't care if it's, well, a good company, WWE, I believe AEW is looking for the same thing, but I know Ring of Honor, Impact, they're going to want to see the basics. They're going to want to see if you can lock up and you know your footwork. They're going to want to see if you can grab a headlock. They're going to want to see if you can lock up and move. Last night, Bobby Fulton was at the Bobby eating appreciation. And he talked to one of my guys, and he said, lock up with me. He did. And Bobby's giving him advice. Wouldn't have found that anywhere else. But if you really want to do this, do it. Just take that step. Go find a good school first and do your research. Find out who the trainer is. Where has he been? Have you ever heard of him? Look him up. What's he done? Has he had that opportunity with any of the big companies? Some guys have, some guys haven't. But look at their track record. Look at who has come from their school. Meet them. Talk to them. Get a feel for it. Trust your gut. Trust your gut on this. Not all trainers are equal. You know, and I'll say this just real quick, and then we'll wrap it up, I guess.
Okay.
Danny Cage, I don't believe has worked for a major company, but he's brought people in from major companies to learn from. He's a good coach. There's more to coaching than just showing you the holes. The majority of it is, and you have to have a coach that you believe knows what he's doing. And the proof is in the pudding. You'll find out if you do or you don't. And then there may be trial and error. Trust me, there's been guys who have been in different schools, a few different schools before they found the one that fit for them. So the best advice I can tell anybody is to look at jpwrestlingacademy.com and find out if that's for you. And if it's not, check them out somewhere else.
Okay. Well, thanks for the interview, and thanks for your time. It was an honor and a privilege to get to interview you, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it, man. I hope it worked for you.
All right, man. I guess I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
You too.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good one, Dr. Tom.
Okay.